She earns $84,000 a year, good neighborhood, the right clothes, solid credit score. Last month, she sat down and calculated her net worth for the first time, not her salary, her net worth. Everything she owns minus everything she owes. The number was negative $11,000. She's not irresponsible, she's not reckless, she just never had a reason to look because everything around her said she was doing fine. The paycheck came, the bills got paid. The account didn't go to zero. What else was there to check? Today, I want to show you the 6 gaps between feeling rich and being rich. Each one has a dollar cost. Most people have never measured a single one. Gap 1, the number you know versus the number that matters. Let me start with the most important piece of data most people never have. You know, your income. Almost everyone does. You can tell someone what you make, or at least have a general sense of it. But ask someone for their net worth, everything they own minus everything they owe, one number, and most people go quiet. Here's why that matters. 2 people can both earn $100,000 a year and be in completely opposite financial positions. One has $300,000 in net worth, the other is at negative $40,000. Same salary. Opposite realities. Income tells you what's coming in. Net worth tells you what's accumulating or isn't. You see that? The Federal Reserve tracks this. For Americans between 35 and 44 years old, the median net worth is $135,600. The average is $549,600. That's a 4-to-1 gap, and it exists because a small number of very wealthy households pull the average way up. The median is the honest number. Half of Americans in their late 30s and 40s have less than $135,600 in total net worth. A lot of them have no idea. Most people check income and stop there. That's the wrong question. The right question is, am I keeping enough of it, and do I even know that number? Before I show you the rest of these gaps, here's something worth doing right now, even if you stop the video after this. Open your banking app, look at last month, total money in your paycheck, any other deposits, total money out, everything that left. Subtract. That one number, your monthly retention rate, tells you more about your financial health than your salary does. If the number is near zero or negative, that's not a judgment, that's data. And data is where this starts. Gap 2, what you earn versus what you keep. Here's the national picture, actually. Let me give you the full number first. The U.S. personal savings rate, the percentage of income Americans actually keep, was 4% as of December 2025, per the Bureau of Economic Analysis. 4%. That means for every $100 you bring home, 96 of them walk out the door. On an $84,000 income, that's roughly $280 a month saved. On $50,000, about $167. On $150,000, still just $500 if you're running at the national average. The paycheck arrives. 2 days later, the account looks the same as it did before it got there. Not because anything dramatic happened, just the regular outflow. The mortgage or rent, the car payment, the groceries, the subscriptions, the restaurants, the stuff you bought online at 11 at night that felt like a decision and wasn't. Most people measure financial health by what comes in. Wealth is built by what stays. And here's the thing, most of that 96 cents isn't going to obvious, visible places. A significant chunk of it is going somewhere most people can't actually account for. There's a name for that state, the gap between what you think your money is doing and what it's actually doing. I call it the fog. Each of the next 4 gaps is a symptom of it. And the fog, it turns out, is profitable for everyone except you. Gap 3, what you think you spend versus what you actually spend. I want to give you a number. Then I want you to sit with it for a second. A research firm, C+R Research, surveyed Americans on their monthly subscription spending. They asked what people estimated they were spending. Then they looked at what they were actually spending. The estimate, $86 a month. The actual, $219 a month. $219. That's not a rounding error. That's 2.5 times the estimate. 89% of consumers underestimate their subscription spend. 42% are actively paying for services they stopped using. 74% say it's easy to forget about recurring charges. And why wouldn't it be easy to forget? The charges are automatic. There's no moment of decision, no register, no checkout, no wallet coming out. The money just leaves quietly every month, often for 6, 7, 8 services, some of which you last logged into in 2023. The $133 monthly gap, the difference between what people think they're spending and what they're actually spending, doesn't sound catastrophic. But compound that at 7% over 20 years, that's 69,283. Over 30 years, 162,256. Money that was leaving invisibly turned into wealth you'll never see. Now, and I want to be direct about this. This isn't about canceling everything. If you go through that 219, look at every single line and decide it's all worth it, that's not the fog. That's a decision. The fog is the money that was leaving without your permission. The fog is the 133 you never calculated. Here's where the fog gets expensive in a different way. That 133 a month is going somewhere, and it's mostly going to companies charging you automatically. That's by design. The entire frictionless purchase economy was built to reduce the effort of spending to zero while keeping the effort of tracking high. Nobody tricked you. They just made spending easier than knowing. And then there's what's waiting on the other side of that frictionlessness. Gap 4, what debt costs versus what you think it costs. The average American credit card balance is $6,523. The average APR on those cards, 21%. And 47% of cardholders carry a balance month to month, meaning they're not paying it off, they're paying the minimum and letting the rest ride. Here's what that actually costs. NerdWallet ran the math on a balance of $11,400 at 23% APR, paying the minimum every month. The interest alone over time, roughly $18,500, paid over roughly 22 years. You borrow $11,400, you pay back the $11,400, and then you pay $18,500 on top of it. The original debt, and then a half again in interest over 2 decades. 49% of Americans say credit card debt is normal. That's not a statistic, that's the fog working. When something this costly feels normal, nobody questions it, and nobody has to sell it to them. The culture does that for free. Credit card companies collect 21% on your balance. Index funds return roughly 7% on average. The system charges you 3 times what it pays you. 2 numbers, same money, different direction. Gap 5, what you own versus what you owe. Here's a question actually, it's more of a test. What's your net worth right now, the real number? Most people have a sense of their assets. The house, the car, maybe a 401k. They feel like those things represent financial progress, and in some ways they do. But the asset is only half the equation. The other half is what's owed against it. The house is an asset, the mortgage is a liability, the car is an asset. The car loan is a liability. The credit card balance you carry each month, that's a liability against everything else. Total U.S. household debt, $18.8 trillion as of the fourth quarter of 2025. Average total debt per person, $104,755. The median American's net worth is $192,700, but for Americans under 35, that number drops to $39,000. And most of what's in that number is home equity, which you can't spend at the grocery store. Liquid net worth, the cash and investments you can actually access, is significantly lower for most people than their stated net worth suggests. Real net worth is not the number that makes you feel good. It's the number that's true, and you can't manage what you haven't measured. Gap 6, what you lose today versus what it costs you tomorrow, this is the one that actually determines the size of the problem. Every month the fog persists, every month the subscription charges run quietly, the debt accrues interest. The spending outpaces saving, compound interest is working against you instead of for you. The debt compounds at 21%. The money you didn't invest doesn't compound at all. $300 a month in untracked spending, the kind that wasn't budgeted, that nobody consciously chose at 7% annual return for 20 years, $156,278. That's not what you spent, that's what you lost. Because money that leaves in the fog can never compound for you, and here's what flips when you clear it. If you redirect that $300 money that was already leaving anyway into index funds, 10 years produces 52,093. 20 years produces 156,278. If you're starting at 43 and have 22 years ahead of you, 187,000, the money was already gone. You're not adding a new expense. You're redirecting what was invisible. I just want you to hold that number for a second. If you're in your 40s and you're hearing this and the math feels urgent, good. That's accurate. But it's not too late. The gap between I'll figure it out next year and I figured it out this year has a six-figure cost. The gap between I'll never figure it out and I started today has a six-figure upside. If you're past 50, the projection still works. Fewer years means a smaller number. But a smaller number built from money that was already leaving is better than a zero. Same salary, opposite realities. Let me show you what six gaps look like side by side. Tanya is 38. She earns $84,000 a year, good credit score. She drives a financed SUV payment around $767 a month. She has $11,200 across 2 credit cards and pays the minimums. She subscribes to 9 services she can name 6 of. Last month, she calculated her net worth for the first time, negative $11,000. Renee is 38. She earns $84,000 a year, same city, similar job. She drives a paid-off sedan bought used 3 years ago. 0 credit card balance. 5 subscriptions she audits every quarter. Since she was 31, she's automated $400 a month into index funds. Net worth, $247,000. The gap between them, $258,000. On identical salaries. This isn't about Tanya being bad with money and Renee being disciplined. Tanya isn't irresponsible. She just never ran the numbers. She never added up the subscriptions. She never saw the full interest cost on the cards. She never calculated her retention rate. She lived in the fog, not because she chose it, but because she never had a reason to leave it. Renee sees every dollar, not obsessively, just clearly. And I get that Tanya's story isn't about bad choices. I get why it took her this long to look. That's the difference. Not income. Visibility. What to do with this? Here's how you clear the fog. 5 steps. None of them require a financial advisor. All of them can start this week. Today, and I mean today, not this weekend, 5 minutes with your banking app. Last month, total money in, total money out, subtract. Write that number down. If it's near 0 or below 0, that's not a verdict on your character. It's the starting point. This week, every recurring charge, every subscription, listed and totaled. Scroll your bank statement and your credit card statement. Mark every automatic charge, add them up. Most people find $50 to $150 a month they didn't know was leaving. The average gap, remember, is $133. Also this week, your actual net worth, everything you own, everything you owe, one number. It might be higher than you expect. It might be lower. Either way, it's the real picture, and you can't navigate by a map you've never looked at. Pause there. That number alone changes what happens next. This month, if you're carrying credit card debt, find a free payoff calculator online and run your balance at your current rate with your current minimum. See the full number, not the monthly payment, the total cost over time. That number changes behavior. Most people never see it. This month, redirect one cleared leak. One subscription you confirmed you don't use. One spending gap you found. Even $50 a month into an automatic investment or savings transfer. You know what that is? $50 a month redirected from the fog into index funds is $26,000 over 20 years. That's an emergency fund. That's the difference between having options and not having them. And if you're at the $50,000 income level and these numbers feel like they're built for someone else, not. The fog operates identically at 50,000 and 300,000. Your subscription underestimation ratio is the same. The minimum payment trap works the same on 3,000 as it does on 11,000. The mechanism doesn't change with income, the scale does. Audit isn't punishment. It's just visibility. She earns $84,000 a year, negative $11,000 net worth. That's where she was when she sat down and ran the number. Here's what happened next. She saw it. And seeing it didn't make things worse, it made them fixable. She found $212 a month in subscriptions she could name maybe 7 of. She ran her credit card payoff calculation and saw a number she'd never let herself calculate before. She started there. The fog was the expensive part, not the debt, not the subscriptions, the not knowing. The gap doesn't close when you earn more, it closes when you see it.